Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the latest updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the royal family. Today's shocking revelation: King Charles has spoken, and there's seemingly no turning back for Prince Harry. According to a highly credible insider, tensions with Harry have reached a point of no return. A newly released, explosive biography of King Charles III, backed by unprecedented access to palace insiders, paints a startling picture. It reveals that reconciliation between the King and the Duke of Sussex is now nearly impossible, not just because of personal friction, but due to a widening constitutional and legal divide. Robert Hardman's meticulously researched account gives an unflinching look at the fractured state of the royal family. The biography warns that the chances of Prince Harry being forgiven by both the King and the Prince of Wales are slimmer than ever. The conflict has grown beyond personal animosity, evolving into a serious constitutional impasse that makes any hope of reunion seem utterly hopeless. The palace drama has never been more intense. The revised edition of Charles III, The Inside Story, built on the author's deep-rooted connections within the royal family, exposes just how profound the estrangement has become. It frames the rift not just as a personal conflict, but as a complex web of constitutional boundaries, legal entanglements, and palace concerns over what they describe as a recurring pattern of problematic behaviour from the Duke of Sussex. Drawing from first-hand testimonies, the book suggests these tensions are systemic, making private conversations between the King and his son almost impossible. Hardman's account highlights the palace's outrage over Prince Harry's high-profile televised interview following a UK court ruling on his security arrangements. Senior royals and advisors were reportedly shocked by both the timing and tone, viewing it as reckless and, as the biography bluntly puts it, a tasteless public appeal that only widened the gulf between father and son. The royal drama has clearly entered uncharted territory. During the broadcast, the Duke of Sussex claimed that reconciliation was his top priority, tying it directly to his family's hesitancy over the legal dispute regarding his security. "I am uncertain about the duration of my father's remaining time," he stated, as recounted in the book. Hardman emphasises that palace insiders saw this public mixing of private family matters with legal issues as a major misstep. Despite the royal household's desire for reconciliation, security concerns prevent meaningful engagement. The timing of the interview only deepened the palace's worries. It coincided with Princess Lealt's birthday, making it particularly inappropriate to air sensitive family issues. According to the biography, the Duke crossed a critical line by linking personal family breakdowns with a high-stakes legal battle involving the British government. From the palace's perspective, the chance for a private, confidential conversation is now largely blocked. Any attempt at dialogue risks being leaked or weaponized in ongoing legal disputes or used to sway public opinion. The book paints a stark picture. What might have been a path toward healing now appears dangerously obstructed, with public exposure threatening to turn reconciliation into an impossible feat. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have been deeply estranged from the royal family ever since he challenged the Home Office's decision to end their automatic taxpayer-funded police protection after stepping back from their roles as working royals. Hardman's book outlines in detail the step-by-step procedures followed by the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, RAC, the government body responsible for advising on security for the royal family and other high-profile figures. This process ultimately determined that the Duke would no longer receive the same level of protection as an active royal. Given their unique status and the ongoing threats they face, Prince Harry has insisted that this security was essential, claiming that the decision-making process was fundamentally biased. From the palace's perspective, his continued legal battles over the matter have become the biggest obstacle to any possible reconciliation. What could have been a quiet resolution has instead become a high-stakes standoff, turning a personal family dispute into a constitutional and public spectacle, further widening the rift between father and son. Hardman frames this conflict as fundamentally constitutional, not merely personal. While the King is often portrayed as the ultimate fountain of justice, his historical and ceremonial role placing the crown at the apex of the legal system, this situation creates an extraordinary clash of royal duty and legal protocol. Now, Prince Harry, the King's own son, is taking legal action against ministers of the United Kingdom, essentially his father's government, in the very courts that represent the monarchy. Hardman emphasises how delicate and unprecedented this is. Palace insiders express real anxiety over the risks of informal conversations between the king and his son being overheard or leaked. Any candid interaction could be weaponized in court, cited publicly, or used to sway public opinion. Royal sources warn that the king cannot risk private dialogue, while Harry pursues legal action against government officials. From the palace's perspective, every court appearance by the Duke is more than just legal. It's a strategic public maneuver that deepens his constitutional predicament. Hardman highlights that the royal household sees these moves as deliberate, calculated, and fraught with risk, making any hope for private reconciliation nearly impossible. The line between family loyalty and constitutional duty has never been so painfully blurred. Despite not being required to attend certain court sessions, Prince Harry made numerous high-profile appearances at London's High Court throughout his case. Hardman reports that the King's advisers viewed these public outings with deep scepticism, seeing them less as legal necessity and more as calculated PR maneuvers aimed at softening potentially unfavourable rulings. A palace source even suggests the Duke may have orchestrated a media strategy to control the narrative before any calamitous verdict. Insiders warn that this behaviour severely undermined the trust necessary for any private, confidential conversations. Hardman's account paints a vivid picture of the tangled intersection of family loyalty, public image, and strategic positioning. The book notes that the King offered Prince Harry accommodations at Buckingham Palace during his London legal visits, but the Duke politely declined, opting for a prestigious hotel instead. One palace staffer, referenced in the biography, quipped that Harry probably viewed the palace as too unsafe. Rumours within the royal household suggest his choice was driven more by a desire for autonomy and control than genuine security concerns. Frogmore Cottage, the Sussexes' former UK residence, offered them both privacy and distance from the direct oversight of the royal household. This decision, Hardman argues, illustrates how every move by Prince Harry is scrutinised, politicised, and magnified in the already fragile dynamics of the royal family. In contrast, Buckingham Palace is a highly structured and tightly controlled environment, where strict staff oversight limits any opportunity for individuals to publicly share personal stories without prior approval. Hardman highlights the stark contrast between palace life and a hotel stay, showing the broader challenges of controlling one's narrative. The palace not only manages security and ceremonial logistics, but also meticulously oversees information flow, coordinating statements, preparing spokespeople, and orchestrating public appearances for senior royals. Palace officials view visits to royal estates as chances to integrate guests into the system, closely tracking their movements. Staff are present at all times, and any spontaneous remarks or media interactions can be quickly assessed and, if necessary, countered. Meanwhile, at a hotel, guests like Prince Harry can connect with chosen supporters, engage favourable media, and craft their narrative without the constraints of institutional oversight. Regardless of Harry's intentions, the palace saw his actions as part of a broader pattern of strategic tension. Insiders noted that his interviews included statements that were contradictory or alarming. After one court visit, Prince Harry even warned that many people want the repetition of history, referencing the tragic accident that claimed his mother in 1997, an ominous reminder of how past traumas continue to shadow his public and private life. Hardman describes Prince Harry's remark as wistful, yet shockingly tactless. The book notes that within royal circles, the comment was seen as a deliberate and misleading portrayal of past events. A crucial detail is emphasised. After her divorce, Princess Diana voluntarily gave up her Scotland Yard protection. That decision was made personally, and palace sources stress that her situation differs greatly from Harry's current circumstances, where he is seeking the reinstatement of statutory protections after voluntarily stepping back as a working royal. The palace argues that invoking Diana's untimely death in discussions about contemporary security can emotionally manipulate the public and obscure important legal and constitutional distinctions. Hardman notes that Harry's reference to his mother carries deep emotional weight, potentially resonating with the public and garnering sympathy. but it also risks oversimplifying the differences between past and present scenarios. Beyond the book, it is clear that palace officials were increasingly frustrated with what they perceived as a partial and misleading narrative of history. Harry's comments, according to insiders, amplified tensions and reinforced the idea that public statements and legal actions are now intertwined, leaving little room for private dialogue or reconciliation within the royal family. The biography paints a vivid picture of how history, emotion, and strategy collide in the modern monarchy. Palace insiders argue that comparing Prince Harry's situation to Diana's might be politically appealing but is factually misleading due to key procedural differences. Diana voluntarily gave up her protection, whereas Harry is now seeking to have statutory security reinstated after stepping back as a working royal. The shifting nature of public roles, complex risk assessments, and the crucial role of ministerial advice to the sovereign all make the situations incomparable. Hardman asserts that by merging these issues on a public platform, the Duke inadvertently turned a private family dispute into a high-profile crusade, effectively closing the door on any potential reconciliation. The revised edition also highlights a troubling pattern the palace sees in the scheduling of Harry's public activities. The book details the royal family's frustration over the Duke organising high-profile events that clash with or overshadow the King's or other senior royals' significant international commitments, in addition to his court battles. Hardman cites concrete examples, including Prince Harry's March 2023 trip to London for a court hearing that was not legally required. This visit coincided with King Charles's first major state visit to Germany, a key diplomatic event, causing insiders to view Harry's timing as disruptive and strategically tone-deaf, further straining the already fragile family dynamics. Prince Harry returned to London the following year for another legal matter, coinciding with King Charles's preparations for a state visit to Italy. At the same time, the Duke appeared at an unannounced symposium on sustainable tourism in Shanghai while the King was in Canada. Hardman suggests that these overlaps have fueled a widespread belief among Harry's supporters that the media has often focused on him at times when the monarchy itself should have dominated global attention. This recurring pattern has caused deep skepticism and, at times, outright exasperation within the royal household. According to sources cited in the biography, some insiders expressed mild amusement, suggesting that what outsiders see as coincidence is in fact part of a strategic effort by Harry to reclaim the public spotlight. Hardman highlights the link between these actions and broader narratives of media competition, showing that the Duke's public engagements are more than personal gestures. They are calculated moves that challenge the palace's control over its public image. The book also examines the contrast in communications approaches. The Sussexes team is described as more flexible, responsive, and assertive compared with the main royal communications department, further intensifying tensions. From the palace's perspective, every high-profile public move by Harry risks undermining their authority and complicating the already delicate balance between family loyalty and public duty. In contrast to the palace's focus on continuity and a tightly controlled narrative, Hardman highlights that the Sussexes' frequent changes in media managers point to a high turnover and a more transient approach. This isn't just a philosophical debate about communication styles, it's a tangible source of conflict. The unpredictable and often unplanned methods of an external communications team create real reputational risks for an institution steeped in tradition and established protocols, especially during sensitive royal engagements. Hardman digs into the operational differences to explain the tension. Palace staff are accustomed to working within a structured apparatus, coordinating across departments and anticipating the diplomatic and ceremonial consequences of every public statement. The royal communications framework is long established and precise. By contrast, seasoned palace insiders are often unsettled by the Sussexes' emphasis on spontaneity, rapid response, and global outreach strategies executed by a semi-autonomous team in Los Angeles influenced by modern media consultancy practices. The implications go far beyond style. Experts worry that meticulously planned state visits, philanthropic initiatives, and private family matters can be destabilized by a provocative social media post, an unplanned interview, or a strategically timed public appearance. Hardman shows that these clashes of strategy and temperament reveal the deeper rift between the palace's careful management of image and the Sussexes' bold, agile approach to public influence. Interviews conducted by Hardman with current and former palace aides reveal how the institution views these events as potential threats to its cohesion and stability. The biography portrays King Charles as a monarch navigating these tensions with pragmatism and careful restraint. Hardman emphasizes that the king is not consumed by personal anguish. Instead, his confidants describe him as resolute, focused squarely on his constitutional responsibilities. One member of the king's inner circle remarked, "People frequently assert that he must be profoundly distressed by the hairy affair, yet the sovereign has reportedly compartmentalized the human side of the family split to prioritize duty." This approach has been shaped by his recent health concerns and the pressing need to concentrate on national matters, leaving little room for issues beyond his control. Hardman also revisits a London meeting that journalists eagerly labelled as the start of a peace summit. This meeting between the King's Communications Secretary and the Sussexes' former media manager sparked intense speculation about a potential thaw in relations. However, palace sources tell Hardman it was largely a ceremonial courtesy call, not a serious attempt at reconciliation. No high-level reconciliation process exists. The biography makes clear that the palace is actively managing expectations, seeking to downplay the event's significance and prevent the public from reading too much into a meeting that, in reality, had little bearing on the fractured family dynamic. Official channels of communication are also constrained, as the king's attention is often pulled away from the central conflict by the personal journeys of other senior family members. Hardman highlights how the public image of the monarchy is shaped not only by duty, but by the individual experiences of its members. The book delves into the Princess of Wales's battle with cancer, showing how this challenge profoundly impacted her personal life and perspective. Hardman portrays her journey as a form of spiritual awakening during treatment and recovery. He emphasizes that this growth is not about adopting a new religion, but rather an enrichment of her inner life, a deepened sense of purpose, reflection, and resilience that has offered vital emotional support during a testing period. In contrast, Hardman examines Prince William's temperament, suggesting that his personal growth has not mirrored the princess's evolving spirituality. Sources indicate that, despite the princess's transformation, the prince shows no discernible change in his approach to faith or spiritual contemplation. A source familiar with the matter states unequivocally, there has been no alteration. Through these intimate insights, Hardman illustrates how personal experiences within the royal family, triumphs, trials, and transformations, interweave with public responsibilities, subtly shaping perceptions of the monarchy and adding another layer of complexity to the already fraught dynamics between its members. The biography emphasizes that this contrast carries profound constitutional implications. Prince William, as the heir apparent, is set to follow in the footsteps of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, by assuming the role of Supreme Governor of the Church of England, a position she held with unwavering commitment. A defining feature of her public life was her consistent church attendance and visible devotion, which became a cornerstone of her persona. By contrast, sources indicate that William leans more towards secular perspectives, and the differing spiritual paths of him and the Princess of Wales raise questions about how the future monarch will reconcile personal convictions with a role so deeply intertwined with the established church. Rather than predicting outcomes, Hardman frames the issue as a matter of institutional interest, highlighting how the balance between private belief and public duty could influence public perception of the monarchy for years to come. This discussion also invites broader reflection on the evolving symbolism of religion under a constitutional monarchy, though Hardman stresses the importance of a measured, controlled approach. The section underscores how personal faith, public expectation, and constitutional responsibility converge in ways that may subtly but powerfully shape both the future of the crown and the monarchy's enduring image. In Hardman's book, palace sources express confidence in Prince William's ability to fulfill the responsibilities of his future role, highlighting a desire to understand the spiritual, cultural, and moral leadership expected from a modern head of state in today's diverse, multicultural society. The biography suggests that public rituals, the subtle diplomacy of patronage and charitable work, and the future sovereign's visible religious practices could all be shaped by the Princess of Wales's reportedly deeper inner life, adding a new dimension to the monarchy's public image. The revised edition also addresses a long-debated incident involving the late Queen and former US President Donald Trump. Critics have claimed that Trump disrespected the Queen during his 2018 Windsor Castle visit, arriving late and walking ahead of her to inspect the Guard of Honor. Hardman's meticulous research, based on eyewitness testimony from senior officials, systematically debunks both claims. Sources insist that Trump arrived precisely on time for the Queen's entrance, a fact that explains the public confusion. Hardman emphasizes that pragmatism and careful strategy guided the Queen throughout these encounters. Her measured approach, balancing ceremony, security, and diplomacy, served as a template for royal protocol and decorum. The book shows that behind public perception and media speculation lies a disciplined, strategic mind shaping events with precision, offering readers an insider's view of how the monarchy navigates both tradition and modern scrutiny. After her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, retired, the Queen took extra measures to ensure the ceremonial stage was safe and properly prepared for her passage in his absence. The widely circulated story of President Trump's alleged lateness became entrenched in public perception due to a minor, self-imposed adjustment to the schedule, an adjustment that detractors quickly amplified. The biography also addresses the footage criticized for apparently showing Trump walking ahead of the Queen during the ceremonial inspection. Hardman clarifies that this moment fully complied with established protocols. During formal events involving two heads of state, it is customary for the visiting leader to precede the host in certain segments of the ceremony. Palace insiders told Hardman that the Queen herself instructed the president to begin the inspection, a decision consistent with protocol and her long-standing practice of rarely undertaking such duties without her consort. The book emphasizes that what the public perceived as a breach of decorum was in fact a carefully orchestrated procedure, demonstrating the Queen's strategic attention to tradition, ceremony, and safety. This account dismantles the myth of disrespect and illustrates the precision underlying royal engagements, even in high-profile international moments. The book highlights that both video commentators and still images were misused to suggest misconduct where none actually occurred. According to Hardman, critics determined to find fault with President Trump came up empty. There was no blunder at all. The narrative portrays the interaction between the president and the Queen as cordial and warm, far from tense or disagreeable. A royal aide described Trump as super charming and noted that he displayed impeccable behavior throughout the visit. Staff also remarked on his energy and physical vitality. Interestingly, the two leaders discovered shared interests in Scottish maternal heritage and significant landholdings in Scotland. Palace sources say this common ground fostered genuine rapport, allowing their conversation to flow naturally. What was initially scheduled as a 20-minute meeting extended to over 40 minutes, demonstrating the potency of their connection. Hardman uses this detail to illustrate how informal camaraderie between two powerful figures can evolve into a tangible diplomatic advantage. The biography emphasizes that, contrary to public speculation, the encounter was strategically harmonious, underlining the Queen's skill in blending ceremony, diplomacy, and personal engagement to create meaningful, memorable, and productive moments on the world stage. A palace insider confirmed there was indeed a connection between the Queen and President Trump. "I am confident in that," the source said. Hardman's re-examination of the event achieves two important objectives. First, it shows how easily a single visual moment can be pulled out of context and turned into a contentious issue, feeding widespread misconceptions. Second, it highlights the palace's intense focus on image and protocol management, revealing that what may appear instinctive to outsiders often stems from carefully orchestrated ceremonial decisions made by seasoned royals. Hardman's updated biography paints a vivid picture of a monarchy attempting to move forward deliberately amid personal upheavals, amplified by public scrutiny and constitutional challenges. The book emphasizes that the rift with the Duke of Sussex has grown far beyond a private family dispute, now entwined with legal complexities and institutional constraints. These factors make private reconciliation extraordinarily unlikely, if not impossible, under current circumstances. The narrative underscores the pressures faced by the royal family, balancing public perception, ceremonial precision, and legal responsibilities while navigating deeply personal conflicts. Hardman portrays a court where strategy, prudence, and tradition guide every decision, and even seemingly small moments carry weighty significance. Hardman's sources frame the difficulties within the royal family as structural and procedural rather than matters of pride or personal conflict. According to his account, the Duke's public statements, legal battles with ministers, and carefully timed public appearances have all undermined the possibility of restoring familial intimacy or achieving private reconciliation. Throughout his analysis, Hardman emphasizes the human costs of these systemic pressures. He makes it clear that the palace is not immune to emotional strain, yet he consistently highlights the disciplined, institutional focus maintained by the king and his advisors. Their overriding goal is to ensure the monarchy's endurance and effective functioning during a period when the head of state must embody national stability, uphold constitutional responsibilities, and navigate relentless media scrutiny of his family. Conventional paths to private reconciliation are precarious, complicated by institutional imperatives and the unusual circumstance of a son litigating against his own government. The updated biography underscores the tension between personal rights and the rule of law, a theme woven throughout Hardman's narrative. Palace aides and courtiers often speak in terms that blend the personal with the professional, invoking family pain, institutional security, and materials that could be relevant in court or media dossiers, showing how the intimate and the constitutional are inseparably intertwined in the modern monarchy. This dual purpose, where personal relationships become both evidence and influence, demonstrates how modern legal scrutiny and relentless media attention have transformed what were once private family matters into public policy debates and even judicial proceedings. The updated edition of Hardman's biography does not aim to judge responsibility or motive. Instead, it traces how, according to the king's inner circle, a sequence of events has created obstacles to private reconciliation that go far beyond emotional distress. Public interventions provoke reactions and counter-reactions. Media coverage fuels narrative clashes, and legal disputes can turn confidential communications into public records. In today's climate of heightened judicial oversight, media saturation, and public scrutiny, Hardman presents the royal rift as a cautionary tale, revealing its potential constitutional consequences. While exploring deeply human anguish, the book functions as a primer on institutional risk management, exposing the palace's concerns about the limitations on informal peacemaking. It illustrates how media dynamics, ministerial duties, and legal principles converge to constrain opportunities for private reconciliation. This narrative is not intended to defend every decision made by the palace. Rather, it explains why palace officials perceive such constraints and how these perceptions shape policies that may appear rigid to outsiders. Hardman's work serves as both a detailed record and a warning, offering insights for anyone interested in the modern monarchy, constitutional governance, media influence, or the delicate balance between private life and public duty. The biography ultimately illuminates a monarchy navigating unprecedented challenges, where family, law, and media collide, providing readers with a striking window into the pressures, protocols, and prudence that govern the world behind royal walls. The book delves deep into the inner workings of a prestigious institution under relentless public scrutiny, legal battles, and familial discord, prompting reflection on what it truly means to hold a role that is both deeply personal and inherently national. According to palace sources cited in Hardman's updated reporting, the monarchy in its current form must be protected from external interference and the damaging effects of private family disputes being exposed to public and legal examination. Hardman's biography makes it clear that the actions of a single family member, Prince Harry, have dramatically blocked any potential paths toward private reconciliation that might once have existed. The consequences of these choices reverberate through the institution, reshaping both its public perception and internal dynamics. Thank you for watching this detailed insight into the royal family. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exclusive updates and behind-the-scenes revelations about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the monarchy.